Okay, Paul.
Hey, Matt.
So today's quick fix is readiness. So let's start by defining it.
Okay. Well, in a work context, we define it as the ability to consistently bring focused energy to your work.
Hmm. Is that the same as like well-being or wellness, maybe? Like
Yeah, I
focused
mean,
energy in that way?
yeah, it's funny. That comes up quite a bit. We talked about this a few episodes ago. It's not it's not exactly the same. So certainly, it's true that focusing on well being or wellness is important in a work context, right? Obviously, the more well people are, the more likely they are to be able to bring their best selves to the workplace, which is why a lot of well-being and wellness initiatives have happened inside organizations. But as we discussed previously, there's also a challenge. There's a few challenges with it as well because um, the what we found in our research is that both well-being and wellness has a capacity to pass certain people by as a concept,
Hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
also in certain points in people's lives, it actually has the ability, by focusing on it, to, I can't think of a better term really, to kind of piss people off.
Mm-hmm.
So let me explain what I mean by that. So um, in the first case, the idea that it passes some people by, um, there are people for whom the idea of well-being, the idea of wellness, is something that connects with them deeply at a kind of a visceral level, right? And those people might be into they might follow certain people online who are kind of into well-being as a practice. They might perform certain activities that are commonly associated with well-being and wellness. So think of things like yoga, for example, or Pilates, or meditation, things of that nature. Um, they may believe in things like naturopathic medicine and look to sort of undergo those practices. And maybe they think that traditional medicine is kind of broken, and that they are looking for sort of more like a holistic approach. Those people, and there's not the full set of people that are very interested in well-being and wellness activities inside the workplace, but those people will naturally typically warm to well-being and wellness initiatives at work. But then there's a whole other set of people who go to work every day and need to be effective in the workplace, for whom that messaging does not resonate with them
Mm-hmm.
in any way, shape, or form, and it feels like something for other people. But those people still need to be able to bring their energy to the workplace. And then the second aspect of this as well is that we found increasingly in our research that for some people, when they enter a period of their life where they're not well, right, where they feel unwell for all kinds of different reasons, they could be physically unwell, they could be having some mental health issues. They could have a set of events that are happening to them in their lives. Maybe they've had the death of a spouse or a parent, or they're going through a divorce or something along those lines, and they're really struggling in the workplace. Then, in many cases, messaging around well-being or wellness seems like it's not for them in that moment. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that isn't necessarily correct, right? But it's almost like well-being and wellness has a bit of a branding problem,
Mm-hmm.
and as a result, it's excluding a bunch of people that still need to bring the energy, their focused energy, to work. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really um, that just in its own right is part of the challenge. Um, but I think there's also sort of other elements to it as well, whereby kind of well-being and wellness is sort of a subset of what it takes to
Mm-hmm.
bring focused energy to your work.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm guessing there's also going to be challenges around well-being because it'll fluctuate, right? And
Yeah.
if you're if you're trying to always be as ready as you can be, the other side of that coin is knowing when you're not ready, which
Yeah.
you would think would take self-reflection and wellness practice anyway.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting that you should talk about it in that sense, because we found that for many of the people that we work with on readiness, once you start to dive a little deeper, there's a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of contradictions in terms of how people think about this. Um, Probably the easiest way to think about this is that your well-being will fluctuate day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. It may improve due to, you being really, really conscious about it, or it may diminish because you've had an event that is causing your well-being to diminish.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody is well all the time. And so there will be fluctuations in that. But what you need to do is you need to understand, if you like, that baseline of well-being that you have, but always be as ready as you can be,
Mm-hmm.
and know what and have enough, to your point about self-awareness and self-reflection, understand what you can bring to the table and live within that amount of energy. So that includes things, for example, like not overdoing it when you're unwell.
Right.
It includes things like understanding that you need to dial things back again, but also understanding when you can dial things up a bit more. It includes all of those types of practices. And so that's really, yes, part of it about um, undergoing the practices to make sure that your baseline energy of level of energy is as high as it can be, but also being really aware of what that energy level is and then living within that as you go.
Yeah. So what's different about it in the world of work?
What today, you mean, like sort
Yeah.
of as
Yeah, now.
it's it is different actually. And the thing that is different is, well, I suppose there's really kind of two things that are different actually. So one is that um, if we think about it in those terms, right, bringing your focused energy to your work, it's harder to do where work can start at any time,
Mm.
work can happen at any time, and you don't even know the amount of energy that you're going to need to bring to an activity ahead of time. So, we often do this, but go back to 50 years or so or something like that, and you knew that what you had to do is you had to show up, let's say to a factory, show up, put a shift in, and then leave, right? And the nature of that shift, the nature of the energy that you needed to put in was the same, right? It would
Mm-hmm.
be the same on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, and you knew how much it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
right? So that wasn't the variable. The only variable was, did you have that energy?
Mm.
And today, the variable is, no, the amount of energy you need to put in is potentially shifting. When you need to put it in is potentially shifting. And then what you're going to be doing of the at different times is shifting, as well as your underlying levels of energy that are changing as well.
Yeah. So you talk about this in terms of energy. Is there an energy in and energy out quotient also,
There
right?
is, yeah, yeah, and that really is the easiest way to think about it. Sometimes we use it in terms of we call it like a brain battery, to be kind of like the
Mm.
equivalent of the body battery.
Yeah.
But just think about it like that. This idea that there's this battery that is being charged up, right? And your practices and activities will determine how much it's getting charged up. There's elements of it that that we talk about, like obviously getting good sleep and making sure that you're moving and making sure that you're getting social activities. We have a model that we use called the RMS model, the rest, movement, and socialization, because those are three of the most really important categories.
Yeah.
But there's other things as well. There's other things that will kind of like fill your cup more, as it were. And then that is the amount you got to play with. And then, as you say, like, depending on what you do, depends on how much that is getting diminished. But it's a great mental model for people to think of, like a battery being charged up and a battery being deplenished. Deplenished? No, that's not right. Whatever that
Depleted?
Depleted.
There
I've
we go.
gone replenished and depleted, and I've turned them into one word, haven't I? Yeah, but anyway, depleted. That's the word.
Hey, new words every episode. We can maybe hope for.
Deplenished. Yeah, that feels like it should be a word, shouldn't it?
It's like the real yin yang of
Yeah.
energy coming in and out. So do you think mindset's part of that?
Well, we've actually given a lot of thought to that, and we don't, on the edges, kind of, but not really. I mean, and this is actually a mistake that a lot of people make, which is like you have a lack of energy that you're bringing to work, and the idea is that if you can just use your grit, to use that term, or just use that ability to kind of like knuckle down, you'll be able to push through. And that can work in the short term, but of course you pay a medium-term penalty for it. And so mindset in this scenario, mindset is not doesn't kind of like change the laws of, I'm going to use the term physics loosely here, but it's not going to change the laws of physics here, right? If you are repeatedly like consuming more of this brain battery than you're pouring into it, you can only fake that for so long. And so by thinking about it just in terms of, well, if I just think about my work differently, I'll be better, it's not gonna work in the medium term. No matter what certain startup founders might say, or certain cultures might try to make you think.
Yeah. All right. So give me one simple thing I can do that'll improve my readiness each day.
Well, there are a bunch, but let's think about something that is really like universal, and we know that works for pretty much for everybody. And this is something I do myself every day. It's made a big difference to me. One is just like getting outside as close to every morning as you possibly can. And so super simple. Try to find, even if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes, try to get some time outside relatively soon after you wake up. Ideally, a great thing is like a brisk morning walk. But even if it's not that, if you're just sitting outside with your cup of coffee or your cup of tea, and reading, that's fine too. But critically, as you're doing that outside morning time, it's without devices. So like a device-free zone. So for me, I'm either walking, or I've got a physical newspaper, and I'm reading a physical newspaper, but I'm away from a screen. It makes a big difference, right? We've had thousands of people who've gone through our programming at this point. Many of them pick up on that as a great practice to kind of get the energy level up a little bit. Do that for 2 or 3 weeks, and you'll start to see that brain battery just have a little bit more energy in it each morning, and even help you sleep better at the end of the day.
Yeah, I do a very mini version of that every morning. When I let the dogs out, I make a point to go out barefoot into the grass and just stand there and listen to the birds for a couple minutes and just take in the morning. No devices, no nothing, just feet in the grass. And it's always cold and dewy, and it's wakes you up, connects you to the earth or whatever. I think they call it grounding. So I don't know if it works.
No.
Makes me feel better every morning though. So
well, that's wonderful. And because you do it every morning, the only downside is nobody is ever asking who let the dogs out.
And on that note, readiness done.
All right.
We'll do another one of these next Tuesday. So send your ideas in. Thanks, Paul.
All right. Thanks, Matt.